Welcome to today's reading skills lesson. Today we're going to focus on visualization, which is not only a reading skill, it is also a writing skill. So to start us off, I want you to think about what we have learned in class. What are your 5 senses? Pause this video now and have a little think. We have our sight, our hearing, our taste, our touch, and our smell. And we use these 5 sentences when we are reading and also when we are writing. Why do we need them in reading and writing? Well, the truth is, because if we didn't, it would be pretty boring. If we don't need to use our sentences when we're reading a piece of text, it means that they haven't really described anything for us to visualise or to think about what the smell would be like, to think about what it would feel like. So if we put enough detail in there for us to use our 5 senses, it makes it a lot more exciting. Let's put it to the test. I'm going to read you 2 passages and I want you to think about which one do you think is more exciting? It's called Deep in the Woods. Here's the first passage. Deep in the woods there is a house. In the garden there is lots of stuff. At night you might see animals through the window. It is good. Here's the second passage. Deep in the woods there is a creaky old white house. In the garden there are huge bright orange pumpkins. There's a delicious sweet smell of soup. At night, with luck, you might see a cat through the window. The cat is playing bagpipes loudly. You might see a red squirrel with a banjo and a small singing duck quietly. So, which one do you think allows us to use our 5 senses and is therefore more exciting? The second one's more exciting. The first one doesn't really tell us much. We can't really visualise it. We're not able to use our senses. We'd have to just make it up ourselves. But the second one, we can hear the sounds of creaking. We can imagine the old white house, the huge bright orange pumpkins. We can smell the sweet soup. We can see a cat playing the bagpipes. We can hear it loudly. You can see the red squirrel with a banjo and the small duck singing quietly. So it makes it a lot better for visualization. So what is visualization? Well, we have our 5 senses and one of them is sight, and that is where we mainly use visualization. However, we can visualize, and we have the mind has an eye inside it. It's like it can think about all of those things inside your head. It's a bit like your imagination. And so when you hear a text or when you're reading a text, you start to actually internalize that text and visualize it inside of your head. Now that might be the things you see, but it may also be what you might hear or touch. So our learning intention is we are learning to visualize characters and settings by reading the text closely. We know we have achieved this when we have reproduced the picture that the author painted in words. So let's have a little warm up. You'll need to get a bit of paper or have class notebook up to draw. Do that now and pause this video. So the first thing I want you to do is draw a large circle with a big X in the middle. The 4 ends of the X should touch the circle. Draw your favourite food in one part of the circle. Please pause the video after each stage until you've done each part. Draw your favourite animal in another part of the circle. Draw your favourite shape in another part of the circle. Draw yourself in the last part of the circle. You should now have finished your drawing after doing the 6 steps. If you haven't, go back through the steps. I'm now going to show you what I have done, and I want you to think about, is it similar to yours? So how did you do? Do you think your drawings will look alike? So do you think everybody in the class will have the same drawing? What is the same as yours to mine's? I'll just show you it again. So is there any similarities there? Maybe you've got the same shape, maybe you've chosen similar food or pet, or maybe you've just put the category in the same part of the shape. And what is different to yours and mine's? Probably chosen a different food or a different shape, or your drawing will certainly look different than mine's. Why do you think some bits might be different? Have a little think. Well, they may be different because you might have heard it differently, the instruction differently. It may be different because you like different things, and we all look different as well. And just simply where you placed the picture, because it didn't specify which part of the circle to place it. So this also shows that we visualise things differently. Now, here's for your second task. Get another bit of paper. Pause this video whilst you do that, or as I said, you can do it on the class notebook or even your whiteboard. In the centre of your paper, draw a lake. On the left side of the lake, draw a house. The house has 4 windows, 2 downstairs and 2 upstairs. Pause this video at any moment for you to catch up. The upstairs windows have curtains. Draw a big door on the house between the windows. Draw a rowing boat in the lake. Draw a child in front of the house. Draw a dress on the child. Draw a wide-brimmed hat on the child. So you should now have your complete picture. Now, you're using visualization before you attempt to draw. You're visualizing what that lake looks like, how big it is. You're visualizing the house. You're visualizing the rowing boat and what the child might look like. And there are some parts in the instructions that help you know exactly what to draw. Now, let's just remind ourselves that Miss Taylor is not the best at drawing, especially on a computer. So please don't judge my picture. It's not the best. So this is my example when I followed the instructions. And I want you to think, what information helped you visualise the picture before you drew it? In this text, what parts helped you visualise it? Well, it specified what the child was to wear, it specified how many windows there were, and it specified what was in the lake. But what further information would have helped? Have a think about what is different to your picture than my picture, because we'll have both visualised it differently. So what further information could have helped us visualise it the same? Well, it might be the size of the house or the size of the lake. It could be whether the house, what colour the curtains were, what colour the child's dress was, what height the child was, what time of day it was. All these things can help us visualise and therefore draw a picture. So before I introduce the task, I want to remind you that those tasks that we set just there we're actually giving you exact instructions of what to draw. Yes, there could have been more detail to help you visualise, but there were some bits of detail that helped you to visualise before you drew. Now, when we read a text, we should be able to imagine the characters. We should be able to imagine where they live, what the setting is, through the description that the author has used. And that helps us understand the story more. So in a moment, I'm going to be reading a text for you and I'm about to give the instructions. But this piece of text does not tell you what to write step by step. So I'm going to read you a story. I'm not going to tell you what it's called. And all I want you to do is to sit and listen with your eyes closed. Then once I've finished, you can play it back and choose the part of the story that you like the best. I then want you to pretend you're the illustrator and listen to that part of the story again. You're going to visualise everything. What do you think is in the setting? What do you think the character looks like? And you're going to pretend you're the illustrator and draw the illustration for that part of the story. Make sure you listen to all of the detail so that you've visualised what it looks like. Once we've all completed the task, I will share everyone's drawings after the lesson, and you can see whether we've built up a picture of the actual story and whether everyone's visualising was similar or what was different. So remember, this skill helps us imagine the story and really get into the setting and the characters, and that's why it's really important we practice it. And the best way to practice it is to listen to the text and draw. So, sit back and close your eyes and listen to the story. It was late one winter night, long past my bedtime, when Pa and I went owling. There was no wind. The trees stood still as giant statues, and the moon was so bright the sky seemed to shine. Somewhere behind us a tram whistle blew, long and low, like a sad, sad song. I could hear it through the wooden cap Pa had pulled down over my eyes. A farm dog answered the train, and then a second dog joined in. They stood out, trains and dogs, for a real long time, and when their voices faded away, it was as quiet as a dream. We walked on towards the woods, Pa and I. Our feet crunched over the crisp snow, and little grey footprints followed us. Pa made a long shadow, but mine was short and round. I had to run after him every now and then to keep up, and my short, round shadow bumped after me. But I never called out. If you go owling, you have to be quiet. That's what Pa always says. I had been waiting to go owling with Pa for a long, long time. We reached the line of the pine trees, black and pointy against the sky, and Pa held up his hand. He looked up as if searching the sparkly stars, as if reading a giant map up there. The glistening moon made his face into a bright silver mask. Then he called, "Do-a-doo, do-a-doo," the sound of a great horned owl. We walked on. I could see the blistering cold as if someone's icy hand was palmed down on my back and my nose, and the tops of my rose cheeks felt ice cold and streaming hot at the same time. But I never said a word. If you go owling, you have to be quiet and make your own heat. We went into the woods. The shadows were the blackest things I have ever seen. They stained the white snow. My mouth felt furry, for the scarf over it was wet and warm. I didn't ask what kind of things hid behind the black trees in the middle of the night. When you go owling, you have to be brave. Then we came to a clearing in the dark woods. The perky moon was high above us. It seemed to fit exactly over the centre of the clearing, and the snow below it was whiter than milk in a cereal bowl. I sighed, and Pa held up his hand at the sound. I put my bright mittens over the long scarf over my icy mouth and listened hard. And then Pa called again. Woot-woot, woot-woot. I listened and looked so hard. My eyes hurt and my eyes got cloudy with the crisp cold. As I looked up at the thin, dark, bare branches of the trees, Pa raised his pale face to call out again. But before he could open his mouth, a loud echo came threading its way through the misty trees and the sparkling sun. Twit-oo! It was the cheerful, fluffy owl. There it was, with its stern yellow eyes. Pa almost smiled. Then he called back, just as if he and the fuzzy owl were talking about supper, or about the silent white woods, or the glistening moon, or the sharp cold. I took my mitten off, my scarf off my mouth, and almost smiled too. The owl's call came closer, from the high up in the trees on the edge of the meadows. Nothing in the meadow moved. All of a sudden, an owl shadow, part of the big tree shadow, lifted off and flew right over us. We watched silently with the heat in our mouths. The heat of all those words we had not spoken. The shadow hooted again. Pa turned on his big flashlight and caught the owl just as it was landing on a branch. Then the owl pumped its great wings and lifted off the branch like a shadow without sound. It flew back into the forest. Time to go home, Pa said to me. I knew then I could talk. I could even laugh out loud. But I was a shadow as we quietly walked home. So, I hope that you managed to visualise parts of that story. And I want you to rewind and listen back to your favourite part. And really visualise that part. You can then draw either on class notebook or onto paper and then upload it, and just draw everything that you visualised and see if you can illustrate that part of the story. So, when else is the skill visualisation used? Pause this video and have a little think. Athletes use it. They need to visualise them winning the race, or visualise them scoring a goal, or the steps that they take in order to do that, because that visualisation helps them achieve their goals and they can actually see it happening before their eyes. We use it in reading to help us imagine the characters and to imagine the setting, and that helps us enjoy the book. Artists use it before they start painting so that they can visualise what the picture is going to look like. They have ideas in their head that they then put together in the painting. And we also need to visualise it in our story writing. And that's super important. It can really up-level your writing, because if you're visualising what the characters look like and what the setting looks like, then you can describe that in words. So, I hope you enjoyed this lesson, and I'm looking forward to seeing your visualised drawings.